And we're back! Boops here in the game room. We have a huge video today with a ton of games and a bunch of special items. So let's get started. Starting off with the PS1, we have one game pickup. This one is from my friend. We have Final Fantasy IX on a whopping 4 discs. That's crazy. I have a few Final Fantasy games in my collection. I played Final Fantasy 1 and 2 on my PSP. And my buddy found a nicer condition copy for his collection, so he decided to give me this one. This one's still in pretty nice condition. Thanks, Patty. Definitely add this to my collection. Next we have a single game for the PS2. It's like $3. Made by Ubisoft. This one caught my eye. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I gave it a go, and I wasn't really impressed. It just felt very generic and not very fun to play. But for that low price, I'll add it to my library. Moving on to one of my favorite systems and favorite handhelds, we got a bunch of PSP games. Starting off with Me and My Katamari. I just got back into this series. I remember playing it back when I was a kid, but I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't really get that far. For me personally, these games are so like therapeutic and just so nice to play and just easy, and it's just a fun time. It's also very neat to see it running on a PSP. I didn't get too far into the game, but I'm curious to see the larger stages running on the PSP. Yeah, super dope series. If you've never tried it, definitely pick up one of the games, give it a go. Next we have Gangs of London. I've heard a lot about this game, and I really wanted to add it to my collection. I gave it a go to get some gameplay, and there's so much to do in this game. The game is a lot like GTA. The story mode consists of you choosing one of the gangs, and then you're fighting street by street, territory by territory, knocking out the other gangs to make yours superior. The story mode puts you straight into missions, so free roam is a separate mode that you can access, and you can unlock more territory in free roam by completing the story. Then there's Gang Battle, which caught me off guard, and I ended up spending like 20 minutes just playing this mode. It's kind of one of those classic Risk type top-down, board games where you move your reinforcements around and claim territory. And it was just a lot of fun, and I got quickly addicted to it. And then on top of all that, they also have the pub, which gives you access to a bunch of mini games like pool, darts,
bullseye,
and even an arcade machine. So yeah, super surprised by how much you can actually do in this game.
We still don't know whose posse grassed you up, bruv, but whoever it is gonna regret it. We're gonna tear this city apart.
Moving on to Kingdom of Paradise. I don't know much about this, besides it's an action role-playing game. I've seen copies of these at the stores a lot, and I finally decided to add to my collection. I also noticed online that it's called Tenchi no Mon in Japan, and then in Europe they called it Key of Heaven. So, very interesting. Just 3 different names for this game.
Is someone chasing her?
I know I shouldn't do it, but I'm a former Siryu disciple, and I can't just stand by and do nothing.
Then we got Mach, Modified Air Combat Heroes by Sierra. I really enjoy jet combat games, especially on the PSP. It's really neat to see such a game being played on a portable system. I played a lot of Ace Combat and Heatseeker on the PSP. So I'll have to try this one out. Wait a second, this is a racing game? Okay. Next, we have Xylin Showdown. I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly. I don't know much about this. It does seem like it might be some sort of cartoon that they made into a video game. I played it a little bit. Don't really know what to say. Maybe someone in the comments can tell us more.
Thousands of years ago, a furious battle was waged between the great and noble Shaolin Dragon Grandmaster Dashi and the evil Halen Witch Wuya.
Next we got SpongeBob. Truth or Square. I watched a lot of SpongeBob growing up, and I played that new Bikini Bottom game remastered. But I haven't played any other SpongeBob games at all. Found this one for the PSP. Had to grab it. We got Legend of the Dragon. This is a fighting game. It's actually made by a French company. I'm not big into fighting games, but I'll gladly add this to my PSP collection.
Fight.
Up next, we got Coded Arms. This is not a very good PSP title, but I believe this is one of the launch titles, or close to launch, and I picked it up quite early on, and I played it a lot, so I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's also, I think, procedurally generated, so the rooms you get into and the areas are slightly different. The controls and gameplay aren't perfect. They're a little tedious at times, but I think it's still a fun game overall. It was definitely better for its time. I actually have this game in my library already. I just decided to grab an extra copy. Speaking of second copies, we got Dinner Dash, Sizzle and Serve. This was a very nostalgic game for me. I played this a lot on the PSP, and I think my sister had it on her DS. Once again, I decided to grab another copy because I love this game. It's like a restaurant simulator management where you need to seat your customers in the correct seats. You get bonus points for the right colors. You need to take their order, get their meal. There's also other things to do, like if there's a family with a child, you need to get them a baby seat. You can clean up spills. As you progress, you get dessert options that you can give people. It gets very complex and very fast-paced. It's a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't. Next, we got another classic ATV game. ATV Off-Road Fury Pro. I think this was the second installment in the series for the PSP. I have the original one that came, I think it was launch day of PSP. One of these ATV games came out. They're a lot of fun, really cool simulation and physics. I remember at the time it was really cool to see this running on a PSP. Last game for the PSP, we got Despicable Me, based on the movie, which I think I've seen, but I barely remember. It looks like one of those, meh movie tie-in games. Not bad, not good. Just another game to add to the PSP library.
Steamrolling whatever I see. Despicable Me.
Moving on to my second favorite handheld system, the PlayStation Vita. I think this would be number one if the libraries switched around. If the PS Vita had the same library the PSP did, that would be amazing. But here we have another Katamari game. This one's called Touch My Katamari. Once again, it's really cool to see this running on a handheld. Of course, the PS Vita is a lot more beefier than the PSP was. The graphics do look a lot better, and the game feels a little more fluid. I really want to find a full, complete version of this game, but at the same time, I really just wanted to play it, so I bought the loose copy, and I ended up beating the game. It was a lot of fun. It's really cool to see, especially the larger size missions running on the PS Vita. Once again, if you haven't tried this series and it intrigues you, definitely check it out. Moving on to the PS3. I still have my PS3 hooked up and I play it, I think every week almost. That was a big system for me growing up. That's where I really got into gaming. We'll start off with a really cool but odd find. So here we have what is called the Best of PlayStation Network Volume 1. But as you can see, my version is French. Now when you open up and you look at the disc seems to be an English copy. So I'm very confused which copy this is. I think it's a really cool find either way. This has 4 really good games, 2 of which I've played a lot. I played Fat Princess a ton. It's a super fun game where 2 teams duke it out, and there's a few different game modes, but in general, a fat princess is involved, and you can feed her cake to make her bigger, so she's harder to steal by the enemy team. There's different classes to play, and you can level up the classes. You can upgrade your castle, so the other team can't break into your castle as easily. It's a very goofy and funny game, but they also have a lot of blood. I actually found one other guy playing Fat Princess while I was recording gameplay. We had a little battle. I would really like to see Fat Princess brought back, remastered. I think a lot of people would jump in to play that game again.
Cake for everyone!
The other game I played a lot of is Sound Shapes, but I actually played that on the PS Vita. It's a rhythm game, but you're also exploring environments, and when you hit certain areas, it will add notes to the overall rhythm. It's a very chill and relaxing game, very nice to play. You can also create your own levels. Then we have Tokyo Jungle, which I more recently checked out. This is like a survival game in a post-apocalyptic Japan where animals control the streets and I guess the humans are all gone. And you start off as, I think, like a cat or a dog, and you have to sneak around, attack, larger predators, and work your way up. I think there's also a lot of different animals that you can play. And then finally we have When Vikings Attack. I haven't played it very much, but it looks very goofy and very fun. I think this is a very nice collection of games to have, and definitely something very neat for my collection. Next we got Disney's Epic Mickey 2, The Power of Two. Barely played the series, I just played it enough just to see what it's about. It looks like a lot of fun. And this one you can actually play the story with 2 players. Maybe I'll check it out one day. Next we have Little Big Planet Karting. I was a huge fan of Little Big Planet, although I never got too far into making your own levels. I did make, a dozen or so, but they weren't very intricate. And when I heard they have karting coming out, I had to try it. I guess the game overall isn't that good, but it was still really cool to see Little Big Planet, Sackboy, karting around. You can customize your karts, play with friends online. I guess I would say it's not the best game, but it was still a lot of fun. Next we got Lost by Ubisoft. I remember watching, I like to say Mini-Me, the YouTube channel, where they dive into, like, not necessarily bad games, I guess, but they have a lot of bad games on their channel. This was one of them I was watching them talk about. I thought I'd add it to my collection. I never actually watched Lost, but I had a few friends growing up that did. Next we have Dragon's Dogma by Capcom. It's an action role-playing hack and slash. I did a little bit of research. I found out that Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, the new one, is a expanded and enhanced edition of Dragon's Dogma. They have extra content, including an extra dungeon, additional weapons, and exclusive armor. So if you want to try Dragon's Dogma, I guess you could go straight to Dark Arisen and try the more complete enhanced version. And it's actually really dope how you can climb the bosses and attack them at the same time. Makes for some crazy gameplay. Then we have Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. This is in the Metal Gear series. And it was just recently that I actually played this on the PS3, and it was so much fun. The hacking and slashing and the slow-mo and just the speed of which you move around and do things is just, it's so much fun to play. I had a lot of fun with this one. And we got Dead Space 2. I already have this in my collection, but it's part of like a collector's edition. So I don't actually have it sitting on my shelf next to Dead Space 1, so I thought I would buy another copy, have it sitting on the shelf, looking a little nicer. Then we have Nier by Square Enix. And yes, this game is related to Nier Replicant. I'll do my best to explain the timeline of which this game takes place.
Vice, you dumbass! Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry.
It's actually very confusing. In 2010, they released 2 games in Japan. One of them was Nier Replicant, and the other one was Nier Gestalt, if I pronounce that correctly, or Gestalt. And what they did was Nier Replicant was on the PlayStation 3 and featured a younger main character, while Gestalt was released on the 360 in Japan. These are Japan, and it featured an older character. And then outside of Japan, we got the game just called Nier, which is Nier Gestalt, the older version. And then years later, they remastered Nier Replicant as the Nier Replicant version 1.2247, whatever, that you guys know of today. And so Nier is a spin-off from the Dragon Guard series. And this one follows the 5th ending of the first game. So there's multiple endings in the games, and then I guess the following games could start from any of those endings. So it does get really confusing, but at the same time it does seem like a very cool and interesting universe. So I'm sure there are better videos explaining. This copy was also not labeled at all, So I think I ended up getting it for 99 cents. Which is fair, because I still have to find a manual. Next we have Vikings Battle for Asgard by Sega. While we were at the store, my friend pointed this out, said it wasn't a bad game.
Born of battle and bloodshed.
I checked it out a little bit.
Would stand against the darkness.
Can't say too much, but I'll add it to my collection.
You will become my champion here on Midgard and lead my people against the Legion of Hell, Queen of the Underworld, who now seeks possession of this realm.
Next we have Operation Flashpoint Red River. I played the previous one just recently, Dragon Rising. Just trying to get through that. It's more of a simulation military game. And it's definitely quite challenging and a lot harder than your regular military games. They're not bad games, but they're not great games either. Still a lot of fun.
No, fucktard. Not Raygun. Reagan. Ronald Reagan, 40th President of the United States.
Whatever, dude. Reagan had to deal with all this same stuff in the 80s. Insurgents trying to overthrow their governments. Back then, the Afghans went crying to the Russians for help. Facts. This pisses Reagan off so much, his boys whip up Operation Cyclone and use the CIA to arm and train the Mujahideen. One of these CIA-trained badass Lawrence of Arabia SOBs who kicks the Russians' asses out of Afghanistan ends up being Osama bin Laden.
Oh, snap.
No shit! True story. So the Mujis...
Next we have Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. So this is a third-person squad-based shooter in the Resident Evil series. Although, when I read online, it says it's a hypothetical scenario, and it's technically not non-canon? My friend got me into the Resident Evil series more recently. I haven't played a ton of them, don't know a lot about the storyline. Another game to add to the collection. We have Enemy Frontline, a game I've never heard of. Looks like another World War II game. And just as we're recording this right now, I'm looking at the back cover of this game. It says Poland, Warsaw. CI Games. Huh. Looks like it's made by a Polish company. It seemed like another generic World War II game, but maybe I'll have to give it another go. It was quite cheap, making me think it wasn't very good. And then we have Far Cry 2. I was so surprised looking at my collection that I do not have this. I remember playing this when I was a kid. Even though I didn't fully understand what was going on in the game, it was a lot of fun. You're on a huge jungle island. There's a huge story with a bunch of story missions. And at the same time, your character's suffering from malaria and you have to keep finding medicine to treat it. A lot of people didn't really vibe with the game, I would say, back then. I think it was a little ahead of its time. It also featured a map making mode where you could create your own map. I never did it as a kid. But I recently went into it, and it is crazy how much things you can do in it. And you can playtest it really quickly, surprisingly. Another neat feature in the game, which I remember testing a lot as a kid, is setting fire to the wildlife. The grass and trees will actually spread the fire, and then you will actually see the trees degrade and lose all their leaves after the fire leaves. It's a very cool system. I think they tried to implement it in one of the other Far Cries, but it never really made the same appearance as it did in this game. Overall, great game. Moving on, we have a couple of PS3 Ultimate / Collector's Editions. First up, we have the Call of Duty Black Ops RCXD, the remote control explosive device. Classic kill streak. This is from the Prestige Edition. It would have came with a bunch of other content, but I found just the RC car, the remote, and a little stand for a really good price. So this is an RC car that you can drive with the remote. You have forward and reverse. Of course you can steer. But what's special about this RC is that it has a little camera mounted at the front. So you can drive it around and see where you're going and also spy on people. I gave it a couple of test drives. Mine seems to be a little sluggish, maybe slightly damaged, but still a really cool thing to add to the collection. As a kid, I remember I really wanted this when it came out, but I had nowhere near the money to get it. Super excited to add this to the collection. I still gotta figure out where it's gonna sit. I am running out of space constantly. And then we have a Ultimate Edition for the PS3. This is the Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier Ultimate Edition. This was the next installment in the Ghost Recon series after Advanced Warfighter 2. They tried to be very futuristic with this game, with drones, remote-controlled vehicles, cloaking devices. It was a very interesting and fun universe to play in. I think the game still holds up quite well. Maybe not as good as Advanced Warfighter.
I'll ask you once, where's the American?
And in this Ultimate Edition, it comes with a USB missile launcher. I believe they had these USB missile launchers non-branded that you could buy at like the source. It looks like what Ghost Recon did was essentially make a deal with that already existing missile launcher, and they branded it with their Ghost Recon and sold it in this Ultimate Edition, which I think is still pretty cool. I couldn't actually get the missile launcher to work on Windows 10, but you'd be able to swivel and turn the missile. You could aim it up and down, and then of course you could fire each projectile one at a time. A very neat little desk gadget.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hot smoke! Secure the convoy. Engage.
Moving on to the PS4. We're gonna start with Schoolgirl Zombie Hunter. My friend actually picked this up for me. This is like an arcadey survival shooter featuring 5 high school girls that need to survive a zombie apocalypse. They have a very fun, robust, interesting system where you can throw your clothing to distract the zombies. I think that would work, right? On the back of the game it actually says, lose your clothes, save your life. And either way, I actually played this a bunch. It's a lot of fun for what it is. Definitely check it out if you're into these types of games. Next, we have Sonic Colors Ultimate. This is like a special edition that comes with a little baby Sonic keychain. Thought that was cute. I ended up playing the game a bit, and I gotta say, like, damn, the graphics do not look good at all. I don't know how to explain it, but it does not feel like a PS4 game. It feels like a PS3 or a Switch game or something, I don't know. And even though it looks pretty bad, it still feels pretty good. It's a fun Sonic game. I'm a decent fan of Sonic, so I had to add it to the collection.
Hello, happy people. Buckle up as Eggman's ultra-accelerating space elevator whisks you to an interplanetary wonderland of fun.
Next, we have one of my favorite games. I think this would be in my top 10. We have Infamous Second Son. I think it's highly underrated. It's set in a very similar universe as the Infamous games on the PS3. I could go on all day about this game. There are people with powers that are, of course, suppressed by the government, and the government wants to control all the powers. There's 4 different types of powers. The powers are super flashy, they're super fun to use and play around with. You can upgrade them a lot. They're used to traverse the environment. This was, I believe, a launch title for the PS4. Super great game, I can't say that enough. Definitely check it out if you haven't and you're into like superpowers. You get a copy of the game with an exclusive collector's edition cover artwork. There's a premium replica of Delson's beanie. Super cool. You get a patch. You get some stickers, looks like. And then there's a set of 8 pins. I think it's a very nice little collector's edition. I will gladly add this to my collection. Once again, I could go on all day about this game.
Who's out there?
Really great game.
It's just me, Betty. Would you put
Delson.
the stapler down? Seriously.
What are you doing here? Why aren't you at the big to-do at the Longhouse?
Yeah, I just didn't feel all that accomplished tonight, but you look amazing. It looks great on you. Seriously.
There's also a standalone version. I think it's called First Light. All about the neon powers and the neon girl in the video game. That's also worth checking out. And finally, for the PS4, we have Kingdom Hearts 3 Deluxe Edition. I'm a huge fan of the Kingdom Hearts series. It's definitely top 5. But sadly, I did not have as much fun with this game. To be fair, I didn't really play the full game. I'm sure it's a great game. It's probably a lot of fun. I probably do need to get back into it and actually finish it someday. But for me, it just seemed a little too... Like, obviously it was going to be more, you know, for children. But I think on top of that, they also were just sort of advertising Disney a lot, which seemed kind of weird. They added these, like, attacks and combos that would result in you using, like, a carnival ride to attack. And there was several different carnival rides, and it just got me, like, I don't know, it just hit me with the weird vibes that it's just advertising their theme park, and I'm not thinking about a Disney theme park while I'm playing Kingdom Hearts. You know, that's not the vibes I was going in thinking I would get. So it was just I think it was just very off-putting to play several hours of this game and just constantly be using these carnival rides as attacks. It was just very weird. So I never ended up completing it. I don't want to say the game's bad in any way, because I don't really have experience with the full game. I just know where my initial experience led me, and maybe one day I'll finish it. The main reason I picked up this copy was because I have the other two, like, deluxe editions for 1.5 and 2.5, the remasters for the PS3. One of them has the pin. I thought this would look really nice next to them. This version includes the pin, the game, a steelbook, and an art book. Yeah, once again, I don't really want to hate on the game. It was just my personal experience. Didn't get too far. Moving on to the PS5. Picked up one game recently, at least physically. We got The Crew Motorfest. Big fan of The Crew. I played 1 and 2. This one's more concentrated on, I guess, cars instead of boats and planes. You can still use boats and planes, but I would say it's more heavily emphasized on the actual car culture. It's a lot of fun. I usually enjoy Ubisoft titles. Our only Xbox game for this pickup. We got Conquer Live and Reloaded. I don't think I've actually played any of the games in this series, but I've always heard about these games and how cartoony they are, but at the same time they're made for adults. It has adult content. You can see on the case as a warning, this game is not for anyone under 17. I guess parents would see this cute character and think that it was a game for their kids, when in reality it's not. These games are very funny, they have a lot of like dark adult humor. I didn't get too far in this game, but this is definitely something I would want to play fully. Moving on to the PC, I usually don't end up buying any PC games. My library of PC games is like 3. But here we have Cruise Ship Tycoon. I played this a ton as a kid growing up, and I actually have a full video about this. I'll try and leave a link to it, either on screen now or maybe in the comments. This is a game all about building your own cruise ship, and then you actually get to set sail to several different destinations and avoid obstacles along the way. Once again, full video link on screen now or in the description. I played this a ton as a kid growing up, which then leads us to Carnival Cruise Line's Tycoon 2005 Island Hopping. So this is essentially the sequel to Cruise Ship Tycoon. I haven't actually played this. I picked this up to play and do a new video on, so you'll see that soon. It actually does look very similar to Cruise Ship Tycoon, just a more enhanced, updated version. Lastly, on PC, super random, I found Rainbow Six Siege Gold Edition. This was at a microplay. They were clearing out their PC titles, and I thought I would pick it up. Huge fan of Siege. I have a playlist with like almost 20 videos. If you want to go check that out, I'll leave a link to it in the description. I believe this is one of the very early copies of Siege, and this gold edition gives you like the season pass to the original first season. Moving to the Sega CD. I actually showed this in my Fan Expo video pickups. So this is Ground Zero Texas. It's a FMV video game, meaning full motion video. You play as a soldier defending against the aliens. So they basically recorded a movie, and then you as the player are looking through a camera security system of a turret, and you're trying to shoot bad guys. It's one of those, old and notoriously bad video games.
So it's just up to us now.
I already talked about it in the Fan Expo video, but I thought I would show it again here. Moving on to the Nintendo DS. We have one game for the original DS. Still sealed, Trackmania. I can't believe they actually have a Trackmania game on the DS. Over 100 tracks, and of course you can make your own. It has insane stunts, and multiplayer. Upgrading to the 3DS, here we have Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call. This is a rhythm-based game, I guess using Final Fantasy songs. This is actually the sequel in the series. There's a previous game. Moving on, super random. I found this really cheap. Once again, sealed. We got Young Justice Legacy for the 3DS. Looks like the Young Justice League. I don't really know what to say about this game. Besides, it was cheap and sealed, so I'll add it to my library. And then finally, for the 3DS. Oh, this is actually kind of neat. So this was actually new, technically, when I bought it, and I bought this from GameStop in 2023. A new 3DS game. I don't know about your local GameStop, but mine has not had PS3, Xbox 360, 3DS, DS, PSP, PSVita for like at least 8 years. It has to be. So that was super neat to find this there. Of course, they say it's new, but it was opened when I bought it. It's in the Pikmin series. This is Hey Pikmin. This is notoriously a bad Pikmin game. People do not recommend this game. I played it a little bit and actually had some fun with it. But then again, I've never played a main series Pikmin game, so I probably should do that first to compare. But yeah, I thought it was just a very funny story that I got this from GameStop new in 2023. So that is it for the games, but there's still a bunch I want to show you, including some very special items here. Let's stick with the 3DS theming, and we'll start with this original 3DS I found, complete in box. You have all your goodies, all your books in there. While looking through this, I could be wrong, but I think whoever sold this used included the manual for the 3DS Extra Large. I don't think this is supposed to be in here, but I'll keep it. Here we have the 3DS. Very, very nice purple color. I love that. Overall good condition. I have a bunch of DSs in my DS collection, including a limited edition 2DS. Happy to find this boxed for a reasonable price. Then we have the new 3DS. That's actually part of the name. They called it the new 3DS. Kind of ridiculous, because it's old now. But this is a newer model of the 3DS. This is a newer, upgraded, faster model of the original 3DS. They added what they call a C-stick or a thumbstick or something like that. It's literally a knob that does not move, but is pressure sensitive, so it actually works relatively well. And they also added 2 additional shoulder buttons. On top of that, there's a camera and sensor that will track your eyes and where your head is positioned to give you the best 3D experience. In order for the camera tracking to work, they had to upgrade the internals and make the DS a little faster, a little more powerful, which is why you might find some games labeled only for the new 3DS, because they take advantage of that accelerated hardware. And what they'll usually tend to do is they'll actually turn off the 3D for their games, and they'll use that extra power of the 3DS to make their games, you know, that much more complex or bigger. And if I'm correct, there was only like a dozen or so games made for the new 3DS that you have to buy this console to play them. So it did make a very weird and interesting ecosystem. Also, one of the main things about this 3DS is that you get these interchangeable plates. So here we have a bunch of characters from Nintendo. There's Splatoon, Donkey Kong, Mario, Zelda. And then it also came with these Mario plates, so you can have Mario on the back. Very, very cool idea. The systems and the plates are not as easy to find, and usually more expensive. But I'm super glad I actually have one in my collection. Moving on, I found another Game Boy Advance to add to the collection. This one's a white one in okay condition. Whenever you get anything in white, it's gonna get damaged a lot easier. The back's not looking as good. I only have like one Game Boy Advance in my collection, so I needed another. Speaking about Game Boys, here we have the Game Boy Player. This is an add-on for the GameCube. The GameCube would sit on top of this, and you'd be able to play your Game Boy games using your GameCube. Now, this is just the base. You would also need a CD that would go into the GameCube in order to use this base. I found this just by itself at a flea market for a reasonable price, and luckily I already purchased the base and CD complete before, and I decided it would be a good idea to have an extra base. Very cool add-on that Nintendo made. Very good idea to be able to play your Game Boy games on the big screen. You could also in this way capture footage of your Game Boy games. Super dope. I'm glad I got an extra base. Which finally leads us to our last item. I saved a really neat one for last. Here we have the Game Boy Pocket Printer. Pikachu Yellow Edition, I guess. This is an actual printer that you could hook up to your Game Boy, and you could print from a few different games. One of the main things you would use this printer with is the Game Boy camera. You could actually take pictures with the Game Boy, and then you could actually print them out on this tiny little printer. This printer takes batteries, and then it connects to your Game Boy by the link cable. These are super cool. I hear about them all the time, but I've never seen one in person. So once I did, I had to grab it. I'll probably put it on the Pokemon shelf. Which brings us to the end of the video. I did not plan for it to be this long, but I did learn a lot about the games I picked up. I hope you did too, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.